Good afternoon. Today we had AuraGoldenBoy on the show to talk about aliens and if they played a role in our creation. Were we genetically modified? We both shared our perspectives on it, and I think it was a great conversation. I think y'all will enjoy it too. So, without further ado, here's Aurora. Alright, so we can just get started here. We can start with how your day is right now. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good. Yeah, just chilling right now. I just got out of school and I'm going to work later on today. But yeah, how's your day?
It's good, man. Are you still in high school or college?
I'm still high school. I'm a senior. Yeah.
Oh, dadgum. Nice. So you're almost done. You're about to be free man. Are you gonna
almost.
So are you gonna go straight into college after you're done with school, or are you gonna like do the casual kickback for a few years, do a crappy job, and kind of reflect what you want to do with your life?
I'm trying to do college. I want to have the experience because I will be the first generation in my family to go to college.
Holy shit. That's a lot of honor on the badge there, man. That's cool. I'm glad for you.
A lot of pressure as well, yeah.
So do you live in a state with like benefits where like if you do good in school, you can like have a lot of help when you go to school, like college?
Yes, I do.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah,
so
that's a good thing.
What kind of classes are you thinking about taking, Aura?
Not sure yet, but we're looking into business or marketing. Or marketing. Yeah.
That's a really flexible degree. That's good. That's really good. You could use that for personal use, or you could go work for a company. That's smart, man.
Yeah, that's my plan for more personal use and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. But it's versatile. You can use it wherever you need it. So that's really good, man. So we're here today to talk about aliens, but I did want to get to know a little bit more about you. We haven't had too many like casual conversations in general, so not only is this going to be our first conversation about aliens, but we're going to get to know each other a little bit here today, and I'm kind of excited for that.
But cool, yeah.
So let's start with your perspective on like the Genesis theory, right? Where we're created as hybrids from aliens. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure if I haven't read the whole book. I believe it's called the Lost Book of Enki. I think that's what it's called. And it talks about the Annunaki and how they created humans. Basically, they created humans in the book. It mentions as slaves, so they could do the work that they wanted them to. And it makes sense when you think about it because it's not just some book. It's some book that got translated from the Sumerian tablets. Mm-hmm. And that's like the first civilization in the world. And I can understand how some people say that or think that, oh, this book could be wrong because they're not sure that they actually translated it correctly. But the way the story is, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're getting more and more from these clay tablets every day, and these days we're pretty confident in the translations. So that argument may not hold weight anymore. But are you talking about Zachary Sitchin's work specifically, or is this someone else's interpretation?
I think it's his work precisely. Yeah, nice. I forgot who the book is by, but
it is all good. We can do a quick Google.
Yeah,
the Last Book of Enki, right?
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
The Lost.
So it pretty much talks about how that we. Like the Neanderthals were genetically modified, right, to be workers, essentially, right?
Basically, how it goes in the book, the Annunaki, it talks about they were escaping because they did some bad things. When they came over here in the book, this was the first time where it got written in the tablets. So the first time they came by, since the Anunnaki spaceship in the book, it got so close to Earth, it caused life to start in the planet Earth. And then after that, they came back. When they came back, they realized they made beings. They made the Neanderthals. They made them. And after that, they engineered their DNA to make humans. And in the book, it talks about how first humans were melanated, and then after that, they were non-melanated humans they ended up creating.
Oh, wow. That's a really strange interpretation because, like, I've heard it vice versa, that they were non-melanated and then turned to melanated. Wow, that's really interesting. But I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense to a certain extent, but not too much when you consider that, like in Mesopotamia, people were actually darker skinned, so they were closer to like Arabian, you could say, or like,
Yeah,
so they it's really fascinating, especially because that's where like most of culture got jump started too. So that's why I think the theory I've heard comes from these days is it's more so the other way around. And Zachary Sitchin's work. Oh yeah, I did do a Google search. It is Zachary Sitchin's work, but but in the book, it's a bit of an older interpretation, and I think it was like written like 30 or so years after the World War II with the Nazis and whatnot. So the Nazis, occultists, had a theory about like the Ubermensch and some really crazy shit essentially. But I think one of their theories, the occultist part of the Nazis, believed this thing that Zachary Sitchin is talking about, and that's where they wanted to wipe out the other people, is because they were trying to finish the job, and it's really fucked up. Like, and I'm not defending them at all. I'm just talking about the history of it and maybe where some of these interpretations and inspiration for their Holocaust may have come from. So there's a lot of potential dangers to like this idea that there's a superior race. Do you think that maybe the aliens kind of put a boot in our ass, so to speak, after the Holocaust and whatnot, because we interpreted things wrong?
yeah, I think so because with all of that, the Holocaust, a lot of people ended up dying, and it's all because that misinterpretation people ended up making, and it's very strange because there's so many people have different perspectives on this, and then you don't. At the end of the day, the problem is not a lot of people are agreeing with each other, and that's
Mhm.
where all the problem, all this chaos comes from. But it's a very interesting book because I don't know if you've seen the movie Prometheus.
Yes, I have. That's actually one of the movies that started my journey towards this theory and whatnot. Kind of always wondered before, but when I saw that scene of him like breaking himself down and throwing himself into the water, it all clicked. I was like, oh my god, what if this is real? What if something along these lines did happen? And so that really jumpstart my belief system around like the Anunnaki after some studies. But continue. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
There's this book. There's another book. It's called The Alien Species. I'll search it up right now, the actual name, but it basically talks about the different alien species that came here to Earth. It talks about the Anunnaki, the reptilians, and it's basically just about them too. And it talks about in the book there's drawings of how the Anunnaki looks like,
Hmm.
and in some of those drawings they look very similar to the ones from the movie Prometheus. I have a
Yeah.
feeling maybe that's where they based it from, the movie.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at some like the Mesopotamian carvings of like the Anunnaki or like the royalty, their muscles are really well defined and whatnot. And not to be that guy, but if you're a royalty, you're not doing much hard labor. And I don't know if they had like a gym set back then, but these people were freaking ripped,
Yeah,
naturally ripped.
they
Like,
were very active.
and I've kind of noticed this, but there's certain patterns in the anatomy of their muscle structure on these carvings that do not look like the calf muscles and the forearm muscles of a human. So it's very interesting to kind of see that carved in stone, really well defined and strange muscle structures. I wonder why they are more naturally ripped. Like, it's kind of interesting to think. You would think if it's a more advanced civilization, they might have like lost muscle mass because of a lack of need for it because they survive in other ways. But they still have a very large amount of muscle mass. So it kind of makes you wonder, were they still hunters and were they primal? Like if you think about like predators from like we're talking about aliens and whatnot. So we're gonna use this archetype, but like the predators were these hunters, right? And they went around and they collected trophies of different species and whatnot. I wonder if it's the same case for them. What if they were like traveled from planet to planet and were just like hunters and they like had like a trophy system?
I'm not really sure, but from what I read from that book, it talks about how the Anunnaki got created. And
Hmm.
this, my friend, I haven't read the whole book, so my friend explained it to me. And he talked about how before them there used to be this war called the Orient Wars, and I believe it was this alien race called the Syrians versus Reptilians, somewhere around that. And there was another one, and they were all fighting each other for thousands and thousands of years. And so they decided to make peace. The Syrian starseeds with the not starseeds, what are they called? Aliens
Hmm.
versus they were called aliens versus Octorians, I believe so. But they ended up
Wow.
getting together, and then they genetically engineered the Anunnaki. That's what the book mentions. And from there, they went. The Anunnaki ended up rebelling against its own creators,
Hmm.
and they ended up enslaving their own race. And so that's where they flew to Mars. In the book, it talks about they flew to Mars, and then I'm not sure if you've seen those pictures of the pyramids in Mars, and it talks
Yep.
about that civilization that used to exist there. It was from not the Martians, but from the Anunnaki who were there. And then
Right.
from there they came to Earth, just trying to escape because they knew what they did was wrong, and they were coming after them.
Right. Do you think that that's when they did the flood as well to kind of like wipe out the other experiments, so to speak?
Yes, in the book it talks about how they got very close to Earth, trying to escape that accidentally caused a flood all around the whole planet.
Oh, so it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional.
Yes, it was a mistake basically.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I've studied a lot about like Mesopotamia in particular, and in their clay tablets, it does talk about like one royalty modifying us, right, and like genetically altering us to be essentially slaves, and we would mine and look for minerals, metals, and things of that nature. I think in the clay tablets, right, it talks about like how their planet was like going through like a sort of global warming and their atmosphere was dwindling away. And so to like save their planet, they kind of came here, genetically modified us, and were turning like gold. They needed gold to turn it into some kind of dust, and this dust would like go into their atmosphere and like counteract the global warming that was taking place on their planet. But it does kind of make you wonder if their planet is this interdimensional thing and it can travel at the speed of light, which is really interesting. Like, is it from an out? This is another thing. Is it from outside our solar system or was it inside our solar system? I can't remember. But if it was outside our solar system, that means they're traveling at the light speed of light at least to go from solar system to solar system within a galaxy. So,
Yes.
like, how would they do that? How would they turn their planet into a spaceship? And if they were smart enough to do that, it kind of makes you wonder, like, how could you accidentally kill a whole planet by just doing some bad parking?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. They were very, very, very advanced. And well, I don't know if you still believe this, but a lot of people say that they're still alive. And they talked about how in Area 51, the U.S. government had contact with them, and then they called them. They look at these Mesopotamian tablets, and in those tablets, they call them as fallen angels, but in reality, they were these ET races, these extraterrestrial races that exist.
Yeah, that's exactly the line of belief I have. That's exactly what I think happened. Uh, I've kind of studied a lot of scripture as well, and there's a few theories out there that the first account of like the flood in Genesis is coming from Mesopotamian mythology or like their history. Really, at this point, we're with
Yeah.
as many dots as we connected, we're pretty confident some of it's history. Um, Man, it's fascinating stuff. Like, it really makes you wonder, yeah, are they still here with us kind of thing? And I say yes. I think they're a part of our government. I think they're a part of the changes that are going to come soon. I think it's mainly because they feel responsible for us. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a baby. Like, if you have a kid, you have an option here. You can either abandon it or man up and take care of your baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think they manned up, so to speak, and they were like, "All right, this is our children. We have to take care of them. We can't just give them this beautiful mind and let them destroy themselves because we didn't let them evolve naturally." You know?
Yeah. Some people that consider themselves spiritual, they have this different belief where they think that, well, that you can connect more with them as you raise your vibration through meditation and things like that.
Hmm.
They've noticed that as you activate your pineal gland more, some spiritual people talk about that. What do you think of that?
I forget his first name. I'm going to take a shot in the dark, but David Greer, I think is his name. I might have butchered that. I hope I didn't. But he's somebody in the activist community, you could say. He's been fighting to have excuse me, files declassified from the government for a very long time about UFOs and contact with alien life. He was one of the key players in the release that happened this year, in particular with like the Tic Tac being revealed and confirmed that it was an unidentified flying object and so on and so forth. And didn't they rename it? It's like a UAP or something now. It's so weird that they have to rename it. So if you go on like the CIA website, don't look up UFO, look up UAP, and you'll find the file where they talk about the Tic Tac and whatnot specifically. Kind of weird how they like to change the wording on us. We got this habit of saying UFO now, and they want to change it to UAP. Okay, I see you.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to hide something.
Yeah, exactly. But back to David Greer. He played a really key part in having this information released, and he actually has an app on the phone, and I do recommend if you have the spare change, throw $1 his way and kind of open up that app and kind of play around with it. And in this app, it teaches you about certain locations that have more energy near you, and how it gives you like a kit to like go out into the wilderness and try to make contact with aliens through meditation like you're talking about. I hope to get to a point where I can start talking about my experiences without sounding like a complete schizophrenic, but there has been a few times in deep states of meditation where I swear I am communicating with something. I swear it. I'll be sitting there and like I've played around with meditation for a very long time, so I know what the voice in my head is, like my voice, my higher self. I know its voice very well. But from time to time, if I reach higher and I kind of like, I want to talk to somebody else. And I'm not reaching for divinity or angels or anything like that. I'm trying to reach towards another life form. And there's been multiple experiences where I've felt like I established contact and started to speak with these things. And I would ask them things about like what's going on in the world in specific. Like with like COVID and whatnot, and they would they would use like images, and they would show me certain feelings I hadn't felt before, and they used a lot of really abstract ways to communicate certain ideas to me, and sometimes they would speak to me directly without like the charades, but it did respond to things like what is COVID and what is going on? Why are we talking about releasing all this information and whatnot? And what about like QAnon and all these crazy conspiracy theories coming out about the government and stuff? What I got from this connection, I did get a mind my own business kind of vibe. Like what you need to think for yourself. Whatever they're trying to tell you is not going to be the truth. And the fact that the media had to focus on QAnon so much makes me think that QAnon is not what it's made out to be. I think it's psychological warfare to make us insecure. I think it's very intentional. Whether the government has something to do with it or another country does, I don't know. It could be us. It could be just a pure coincidence of just this beast that's grown too big and become popular, and that the media was forced to focus on it because of like the riots at the Capitol and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there was all these different kind of parts laying out in front of me around like the conspiracy world, and I really wanted to know if I was wasting my time. And when I asked, should I keep going down this rabbit hole, they said no. They said focus on your path, focus on your life, focus on what you want to do. You will be fine. Everyone will be fine. I did get it's gonna be okay. It's gonna suck for a while, but it's gonna be okay. Don't buy the bullshit. Is what they told me. Good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And 2 months later, Ron Watkins was on film recorded saying, "I never, as Q, tried to teach people how to do their due diligence and research and conspiracy theories." So he openly admitted that Q is one of his persona, and it almost sounds like Q is a persona for multiple people as well. So I think that's what's going on. I think that Ron Watkins, Jim Watkins, they have a team of people around the internet, around the world, and they are trying to teach people how to research for themselves but they've made it to where there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down that you will lose your fucking mind trying to find. Yeah, you try to find the truth and the light and it all, but you just fucking won't. Okay, it's like the surface level of these conspiracy theories. You can trust your intuition. Like, you can go about 5 minutes of research and go, this one's bullshit. Listen to your gut. You know what I mean? And keep going. But people didn't do that. You know what I mean? People became incredibly obsessed with these conspiracy theories. And that's what happened. And it was so funny that 2 months after I had asked them, should I get involved, they were like, no, mind your own business. And it wasn't like a, you know, mind your own business, we're up to something here. It was definitely like, to protect yourself, you need to keep to yourself.
Yes, that's very good. They gave you a good warning and advice.
So yeah, I definitely do believe that we can make contact. I've seen some results. I've kind of lived through it. And it's, when you're communicating with them, it is very much a lucid state. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Almost like an astral projection state, you will say, right? Exactly.
It's exactly what it's like. But you're still in your body, right? It's just your mind's wandering off somewhere.
I've had one of the deepest meditation I did. I got into the point where I remember my body felt very light, and I felt myself disconnecting from my body. And then I know a lot of people don't believe this, but I do. And then I felt my body just like detaching myself from my actual physical body. And I remember being in that deep meditation, and then one of the things I saw, it was the only thing I got to see. It was the solar system. It was a solar system, and from far away I saw this light blue planet and this red planet. And after that, I finished my meditation, and it was one of the most craziest experience I ever had. It was just, you know, what meditation can do to you is just wonderful. All the things you can experience and accomplish through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think when I start seeing like the colors, you know what I mean? Like, it'll start flashing like red, green, and yellow, and you're behind your eyes and stuff. That's the moment that I almost get jump scared out of like meditating. But if you kind of like push through and wait for the white to come, it does. You reach this state of mind that you really think is impossible. The state of peace you can reach, and it's not that far out of reach. You just have to sit with it and wait for it to come to you
and be patient.
But to get back to like aliens, I think it's really fascinating, like the what all the clay tablets have to share with us. But I kind of wanted to move forward a little bit in history. What do you know about Thoth the Atlantean?
I haven't heard of it. Could you explain more?
So Thoth the Atlantean, the interpretation I'm going to be talking about is from like a hermetic point of view. It's almost like a fan fiction or like a channeling of the Thoth, the Egyptian god, who is the god of writing, mathematics, magic, and pretty much science. He's pretty much the scientist god. And so there's a book out there called The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, and it's written by Maurice Doreal, who owns a lodge out in Colorado somewhere. And he's essentially a cult leader. So if we're gonna talk about it, we need to be real about who these people are and what. I don't want anyone to go out there and pick up this book and become deeply, deeply obsessed with it. But there is some really cool stuff in this book that really makes you kind of freaking wonder about Atlantis and the beginning of humanity. And I think in this story that Doreal points out is kind of similar to what the Sumerians were talking about. So it's really interesting stuff, especially when it starts talking about how his father and their people were drowned out and died a long time ago, and they came here to help us all. But it doesn't talk about like genetically modifying any of us. It talks about finding the keys that are already in our DNA code and the halls of Amenti. And so like through states of meditation, you can unlock a record of sorts, and this record is the human history. Apparently through this text, he claims that, you know, he's channeling Thoth the Atlantean, and that this scripture is directly from the Emerald Tablet. I'm willing to debate that with a lot of people that take this with a without a grain of salt. They take it very seriously. They believe it's the whole truth. And I before we go down this road, I do want to, again, make sure people understand that this guy is channeling Thoth the Atlantean. These are not the translations of the Emerald Tablets. I won't say he's a hoax completely, because the work in itself is a beautiful piece of art, and I do think that he was getting downloads, and I do think that some of it is authentic, and that something was coming through him. But I don't want people to pick these Emerald Tablets up and think that they are the whole truth and nothing but the truth, because they are very much one person's interpretation claiming to be the highest truth, which is usually a pretty big red flag when you start going down these rabbit holes. But when you find this red flag, don't stop. Keep going. I promise you it will be worth it. Do pick up the Emerald Tablets, Thoth the Atlantean. It tells a wonderful story about essentially what feels like an alien race coming here to help us evolve and to unlock our fullest potential. And the whole thing's written in like Yoda speak, like he speaks backwards almost. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know.
But it's really fascinating. So if you like the Sumerian tales in Mesopotamia and whatnot, you definitely should check out this book. It is very interesting.
Sounds very fun. Yeah, I have a friend who read that book, I think. And he also, like you mentioned, said that the book was very interesting, but he didn't agree with almost everything. And I sort of agree because, one person's perspective is not the whole truth to it. That's just what makes sense to them. So that's why I really believe that when people are trying to get into rabbit holes or just getting into all this stuff, to really read and try to make up their own mind from what they're reading, try to like see their own perspective, the viewpoint of whatever they're reading. Because you could get trapped into this and think that's the whole truth, like you mentioned right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm constantly saying this with people, too, that are down these rabbit holes, is that there is a lot of value to it. There's some truth. But if you're not skeptical, you're going to go insane. And you're going to lose touch with reality, and you're not going to be able to differentiate and think for yourself. We're constantly in these communities talking about think for yourself. Be yourself. Be your true, authentic self. Yet we found another thing to follow like sheep.
It always happens somehow.
It's human nature, man. We can't help it. It's that pack mentality. We want to feel special. We want to feel involved.
There's this picture. He was a YouTuber, but he got taken off YouTube. And this man, he was around his 60s, and he would go around places like Latin America, and Egypt. And he started finding, he started going with a group of archaeologists, and he started finding these ancient schools where they were very big, and the head shape is nothing similar to a human head shape. And he started believing that in these ancient civilizations, not only were there humans, but most likely aliens as well living with us, or having some sort of connection with us.
You're talking about the elongated skulls, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, some of those skulls, man, I'm kind of on the same boat with them. Some of these skulls are not the same, like, capacity. Now, they talk about, like, head binding at early age in some of these cultures. But head binding only changes the shape. It doesn't actually change how much mass is the skull itself. Some of these skulls have more mass. So it's not just a head binding. Some of these skulls are genuinely bigger heads. And
than the average human head. Yeah.
And they've done genetic testing. These people they don't have like elephant's disease or, a disease that would, mutate the structure of their bones. These are very natural formations, and they can't find any impurities in their genetic code that would cause this specific mutation. So there's a lot of weight to some of these skulls. Now, most of them are head bindings, but some of them, it's undeniable proof.
Yes, and then I really believe, they're not head bindings, but it's just crazy how the more you dig in, the more you find there's so many secrets, so many things we haven't learned about, and so much evidence that there's been alien life here with us. I'm not sure if you heard about, Atlantis, how they were, I don't know if you know the whole story about it, but basically the reason why, what I've read about through research, why they don't exist anymore, is because they were using black magic and science to genetically engineer a sort of new kind of race, so they could govern them, and then they make themselves feel like they're gods. And
Yeah,
that's where some of the Greek mythology they think that it comes from, and all of those things.
yeah. You can actually tie this back to Mesopotamia, where we started today. A lot of these tales, you'll find something very similar from the Mesopotamian tales. I think the large reason why we keep finding these reoccurrences in these cultures is, one, it is partially history. There's a lot of truth to it, but it's also the telephone game. It's all being played by word of mouth. You know, for a very long time, the story of the Bible, the story of the Egyptian pantheon, they weren't written down in scrolls. They were told orally. So the story did naturally change as cultures kind of transferred them between each other. And so I think that's where this kind of thing comes from. But the fact that it talks so heavily, all of these stories talk about something coming here and genetically modifying us, helping us along, and using us partially to their advantage. It's there in several cultures. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all over.
There's only so many dots you can connect before you're like, holy shit, this has some weight. And the one thing in particular is this Nephilim, the gods mating with people or genetically hybrids, screwing up and having to kill off the screw ups. And it's there. It's everywhere. And it blows your mind how people can just go, no, it's not possible. That makes no sense at all. But it's in the stories. Every single religion and culture talks
Around the world.
It talks about something meddling with our genetic code, killing us off, and then starting over. Every single one of them.
Yes, I've noticed that too. And also with Hinduism, a lot of the gods, you know, they've talked about how they could actually even be aliens itself, and not where the whole story comes from. I was reading about that a bit. You know, what do you think? I think it could be
What specifically?
that the gods from Hinduism were actually aliens.
Yeah, it's possible. That's actually one of the rabbit holes I have not gotten down yet, because every time I start going down that rabbit hole, I start getting really funny downloads and feelings that I'm not ready for in my spiritual journey. So,
Hello?
are you there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, bud?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. So every time I go down that rabbit hole in specific, I keep getting these really weird downloads and feelings that I'm not ready for this in my spiritual journey, because like the Bhagavad Gita in specific, like it's such a powerful story about duality and how necessary it is, and it's really hard for me to go down that rabbit hole because I start to believe it. I start to believe in like Shiva and Ganesh and all these gods. I start to believe in them, and I cannot help it. It's so weird every time. Like I can go down the rabbit hole of like Egyptian, Christianity, Hebrew faith, Muslim faith, all of it. I can go down those rabbit holes and not get swayed by the belief system. But every single time I start to go down like a Hindu rabbit hole, man, I just start wanting to believe it. It's just such a beautiful story. But no, I haven't done much research into Hinduism. I've just listened to like the Bhagavad Gita and heard some very basic tales.
I've been like just how you mentioned. I had the same experience. You know, this was around a week or 2 weeks ago when I was doing some research about this. I had this one dream where I found Lord Shiva's temple, and it was weird because it was right after doing this research about all of this. It's just how you said. I started believing into the story, and I had this dream about finding Lord Shiva's temple.
Can you remember some details from that dream? I'm curious now.
Yeah. So basically, I was walking in. It was a very rocky. I wouldn't say a desert, but almost like it, because there were still trees around. They were just pretty dead. And then I was walking around it, but before I was walking, I saw like the whole story of Lord Shiva, where the god was lost, and then some lady helped him out. I don't think this is a story from Hinduism, but this is just what I saw in my dream.
Yeah.
But the god got lost, and some lady helped him out, and then this was this whole temple of the god got created. And then in my dream, I was walking around. I was lost in the forest. I was walking. I went through these mountains, and then for hours and hours, I was just lost. And then it was evening time. The sun was going down, and out of nowhere in my dream, I see the temple. I see the statue of the god, and I go inside and I see all these candles, these rooms, and it was just crazy because I go inside and it was basically like a safe place. I found food, water, and I got safe in there. And that was the end of my dream. Like Lord Shiva basically saved me in the dream. It was very weird to have
Daggone.
a dream like that. Yeah.
Did Shiva look like the mythology in your dream, or was it different?
Yeah, it was like the mythology. I think it's because due to that's what usually comes up more when you're doing this research is the image of the mythology one. But that's how it looked like to me.
Yeah, yeah. I was just curious. Maybe she was different in the dream, but no, that's really cool either way. Dadgum, man. Yeah, I really want to start going back down that rabbit hole. I think there's Erdek von Heirik, I think is his name. He wrote the book Chariots of the Gods, and it talks about like the Vimanas and whatnot are based off alien spaceships that came down here, and you can kind of see this play out through other cultures as well. This is one of the really common dots that ancient astronaut theorists come up with, and it's that these pyramids are based off the chariots of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Not really sure because I haven't read too much about it. But there's this similar story I read about in Peru. They have temples over there and pyramids, just as how you mentioned right now. But in Peru, there's this. It's a big rock, a big boulder, and in it there's these carvings, and it's like a map of stars, and there's this big door. I'm trying to make you show you a visual example by describing it. But it's a big brick door, and it's forbidden to go in there by the locals because they say that door is the door to the gods, to where there's this whole other world where it's basically a very advanced civilization. And I really believe it could be some sort of portal maybe to some other planet with an advanced ET race. Because they say that once you go into this other world where everything is more advanced and bigger. It's like almost a different dimension, you could say so.
Right. You're talking about like the Stargates, right?
Yeah. And this is found in Peru.
God, man, that'd be crazy if someone actually manages to cross over and get through one of these doors one day and then comes back. You know what? I wonder if there's already some stories out there, even if they're not true and they're just tales. I just want to see what people come up with half the time. But, man, it also makes you kind of want to go and try. Like, see if you can sit in front of it and meditate and fucking sit there for like 30 minutes and just zen out. And then fucking behind you, the fucking doors open up and you just turn around like, oh god, it worked.
Yeah, I think there's stories about not people going in, but the actual gods themselves going in. And you can go and visit. You can go in front of the door, but you can't go in because it's not permitted yet. But they talked about if you go in, there's no going back apparently. So it's a one-way ticket.
Better get ready to integrate, I guess. Oof. Yeah. That would be crazy. Like, think about that. Like, if you did get stuck on the other side, you don't speak their language, and they've, like, lost contact with our civilization, so they don't remember our language or any of that. That'd be friggin' nuts. Get stuck on the other side. And, like, what if they, like, they're not, like, completely foreign? What if they look so much like us? So, like, you would just be, like, the crazy fucking homeless dude who did too much drugs, and they can't notice that you're from another world or anything. You know what? That also makes you wonder, what if some of these crazy fucking homeless people here are aliens? Like, and they got stuck here, too.
That reminds me about Men in Black, where I don't know if you've seen Men in Black 2, I believe so, or 3, where they're talking, and they're back in the 1960s, and that one random dude, he's an actual alien.
Shit. Man, this stuff blows my mind. Every time I start talking about it, my mind starts racing and trying to connect all these dots. So what? What are your thoughts on them coming back? Like, one, if they're already here or if they come back, what do you think is the thing that keeps them from opening the doors to us and coming out of the closet, so to speak?
From from the gods from Peru, the aliens there, or you mean in general the Anunnaki or anything?
Any of them, any of them. If they're here or on their way, what is keeping them from opening contact with everybody?
I think what's keeping them from contact from everybody is that people are not ready for them. I think that they probably know that not everyone believes in these stories or believes in this research, and they know that if they come back, people are probably going to try to harm them or try to kick them out, and not only some will probably follow them. They probably believe that humanity is not ready for them to be here again.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I don't think we're capable of handling it. We're still racist towards each other. Like, God forbid another actual race comes here. You know what I mean? Because we still think that we're different races when we're not. We're the human race. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
But God forbid an actual different race come down here, and then we can, like, somehow rationalize trying to kill off some fucking people just because they're different than us, and we're trying to, like, protect our land, and it all comes from this deep place of ignorance where we just don't understand that they're trying to help us, and we're biting the very hand that feeds us.
Yeah, I think that's a whole problem with humanity itself. We don't agree with each other, and we end up hating each other for no reason, and we don't realize we're all the same.
Yeah. And religion is one of the big things that gets in between us, too. Aside from just racism, I think the religious beliefs we have and the way we kind of hold true to them and we're unswayed in any way could be like a really huge red flag to these other people, because they probably evolved to a point where, like, they do still have, like, spirituality, but, like, they approach it differently. They approach it like a theosophical society would. Or a philosopher, right? Like, it's more about the values that the stories are trying to say than whether it's real or not, and which one's the truest version.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But it's just crazy because there's so many different around the world, so many cultures, and if you try to interpret the message, it could be talking about any aliens, and just the thought about thinking, who knows how many alien races actually maybe had contact with Earth? We just don't know that, and it's crazy. Which ones are actually trying to help us, or which ones are trying to harm us? Right. I think that's the scary part to people, that they don't know if they're trying to harm us or hurt us.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking of, like, harmful ETs, what are your thoughts on, like, the reptilians and whatnot? Do you think that that's true, or do you think that this is something swayed from a different truth?
I think some of them, I don't think all of them are bad, but for the majority of the part, from all the stories and all the things, it seems like most of them are bad. But maybe they're not. But one thing I do know for sure is that they're very advanced and very strong.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I've seen some crazy videos online. I remember last year there was this video on the internet rotating of something going on in, like, I think it was Afghanistan or Pakistan, I can't remember, but it was either Russia or us. We were in combat with the Taliban, and they're off in the distance while this gunfire was happening. You could see this, like, literally, like, 20-foot tall, linky, like a walking fucking lizard, dude. It had, like, an elongated skull, and it had, like a long jaw, kind of like a lizard would, and you could only see, like, the silhouette of it. You couldn't make out any details of this thing, and you could see it, like, knocking over trees and running through the rubble and running across the desert, and then the video turns off because they get shot. But after I saw that video, it really messed me up, because, like, I'm pretty good with pointing out and seeing if a video is fake, but there was something about this video that seemed so real, and I think the people that were filming was a different language, so I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they did have some subtitles, and the dude was like, "Look over there, what's that?" And then they got shot, and the thing had just, like, silhouette had come and gone, and I looked everywhere. I went through the comments of the videos. No one could find it from a movie, a TV show, or just like an edited YouTube video. And then 2 days later, I went to go find the same video again, right? And it was gone. I could not find it anywhere. And I was just trying to show it to my friend. And of course, I look fucking crazy to my friend. And I'm like, look, see, they removed it. Huh? Like, and he's like, okay, man, you know, whatever you say.
Yeah. You know, when they remove it, it's because it has to be real.
That's what I'm saying. Because if it was fake, they just would have debunked it. They'd been like, oh, you can see here, this is graphical editing. You know, some crazy shit.
Yeah. I don't know if that reminds me of the video about Justin Bieber where he mugshot and then you could see like his reptilian eyes. What do you think of that picture? I mean, that video.
I've seen a few of those. I don't know. I think the sideways eyelids is what gets me the most, not really the pupils, because like it's weird. It's weird when you see them blink sideways and then right upside down, you know, or like right side up.
Yeah.
I think that's real. I think that the sideways blinking is real, but part of me wonders if they edited in the pupils, but who knows, right? I do think that definitely the blinking is real because I've seen it. I've seen it on like news channels, like the anchor woman or man will be sitting there and then they'll fucking blink and they blink sideways and you only catch it for like a split second and you'll rewind it and watch it again. You're like, oh, there it is. Fuck, shit. Whoa. So, but I haven't seen in my own experience while exploring the internet, haven't found anything other than them like blinking sideways. It's been really hard to catch the pupils turning into like slits.
Yeah. Also, there was this video about Adele where it talks about fans went in backstage and they saw her turn into this 20-feet reptilian. And the video got taken off YouTube, but there's only the articles to talk about it.
Oh my god. If you ever find a link to that, you got to share that with me. I haven't seen this one yet. Ugh. Fucking this gorgeous woman with a beautiful voice takes you behind stage and just turns into this fucking Goliath of a beast, and you're just like, oh my god.
It must be so traumatizing.
You know those people are in mental hospitals now. They've got to be. I fucking would be. I'd lock myself away. I'd be like, they'd try to release me like, yep, you're good to go, ready to integrate with society. Please don't send me away. I'm safe here.
You don't even know who to trust anymore. It's like, you could be reptilian.
Yeah, I would go absolutely insane. Which, again, kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, this might be why they don't reveal themselves. What if we got it backwards, right? Like, what if the reptilians are the good guys, right? And there are these, like, monstrous-looking things, and that's why they don't reveal themselves, is because they know that we'll be horrified with their true forms and stuff, and we won't be able to treat them like people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like life forms that have a soul and a heart and like love and cry just like we do. I mean, hell, man, we slaughter whales and dolphins for sport. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is why they don't reveal themselves as their true forms if they have an ulterior form and they only come to us in like a skin suit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see those videos of those warehouses full of skin suits?
Oh, I've seen those videos.
Man,
weird.
It's so creepy. I think that those are like warehouses at like movie sets for horror films and stuff, and those are just a bunch of fake mannequin bodies that are like filled with like fake blood and stuff like that.
For movies and stuff.
That's what I think it is. But when that video started rotating on the internet, I was just like, oh my god, they look way too realistic. We got some good artists out there, I guess. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of freaky stuff out there. I really do wonder if this is why they don't talk to us, you know? Because, like, just think about the way we reacted to QAnon conspiracy theories and the way we treated our very own politicians. Now, I'm not saying that politicians aren't corrupt and that there's, like, a possibility of something horrible going on behind the scenes, but I'm just extremely skeptical. Until I see real evidence and these people go to court and they get, you know, prosecuted under a just reason, I won't believe it. But look at the way we treat our own politicians in power. If we find out that there is an alien race that's a hierarchy and they're the ones in control of the world, even if they're the good guys, we're going to see them as the double agent. We're going to ask them, are you a secret agent? Whether they say yes or no, what are we going to think? You know? We're constantly going to assume the worst of them just because we cannot handle being juxtaposed to anyone in our opposition or any form of authoritarian figures.
Yes, that's true. It's the problem with society, as humans.
We can't help it, man. We can't help it.
It's part of our nature, I guess.
Whew. Daggone, man. This has been a beautiful conversation, my dude.
I agree.
So do you want to close up here soon, or do you have any final thoughts?
This is all I have for now. Yeah.
All right. Well, just plug yourself real quick. Shout out for your podcast on your YouTube channel. We'll have it linked in the description of the video real quick.
Yeah. Oh, can I just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Have at it. This time is yours.
Yes. Thank you. Basically, we have a podcast called Deep Conscious, and I started this one with my friends, and now it's just the three of us who make podcast episodes, and we're trying to get more people, just like Drew here, and have more perspectives and hear about different topics. We like to cover about anything, any type of topic. We like to talk about the things that people normally don't talk about, like for example right here, aliens and all of this. But we also have regular normal conversations. It's a very good podcast, and if you want to check us out, go for it. It's called Deep Conscious. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man. This has been awesome. I hope to have many more episodes like this, and I hope to come on your show very soon to explore some more spiritual topics. I think it'd be really interesting to go down one of these rabbit holes with you, aside from just aliens. I really appreciate you coming on today. This has been a privilege. Thank you so much. And again, if you can't find the video in your own search bar, you can go down to the bottom description and we'll have their channel linked, and we'll also have a playlist of any time someone from Familiar Company server is featured on there or vice versa. So help us get this started. We're excited to meet new people every day and get to the root of some of these conversations in any format possible. Thank you for joining us today. Much love.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Peace.